Hiya, this video is going to be about the problem of the revolution leading to replacement. You see, I'm not really on anyone's side in the sense that I accept people who exactly think independently minded and come up by coincidence as the same views as I've got. There's no answer which I think will come out of an uprising against this horrible state superstructure, so Orwellian, and just like, they can't replace them. So this video is about the problem of replacement. Now obviously, before I get into that, in the ideal world, there'd be a revolution just to bring down the poison and not replace it with our own poison. The problem is that I think that if there was a revolution, they would replace it with our own poison. There's a brilliant video that, a brilliant tape recorded speech, because it was the 70s, by John Lennon. It's been made into a video, where he's like saying, I want a revolution, definitely, on one side, but there's never been a revolution where there hasn't been a replacement. And he's saying he does not want an establishment, he does not want to replace the establishment. He says, this is what I want a revolution against. And he never got further ahead than where I'm at now. He never got to a stage where he could say, I know, this is how it will work. You know, he just wanted to get rid of the poison, he did not want to replace it with poison. Now, when the opportunity arises, if there's some shock, I won't want a replacement. I want a revolution, but not a replacement. But others, I think, will exploit the crisis and push right on in there and try to replace. I think that is a fair point to make. I mean, I've said over and over and over again in my online videos, on online papers, that I'm as opposed to a replacement revolution as I am to the existing state superstructure, because it's identical. It's like saying I don't want I don't want sports bags, so we get rid of the sports bag, and then there we are. That's what we got now. It's just exactly the same as that. Obviously that's an analogy, but it's just, that's exactly what I'm against. So to claim that I want a revolution and want a replacement is absurd. I don't, because that is the problem. You see, an establishment, they all celebrate it first, and then suddenly the people who are not part of that power suddenly think, hey, we've not got anything from this, we're second-class citizens still. And then the megaphones by the new establishment are using exactly the same way as what they are now. They shut up, but said with spin, you know, said like we're on your side, blah 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 blah. Yeah, we're on your side, but you've got no power anyway. Well, and then shit back, that's what we want. Well, you haven't got it, but we're still on your side. Yes, it's all exactly the same thing. Of course, they'd spin it marvellously, they'd spin it delightfully. Propaganda, we're just becoming the new Orwellian propaganda stuff. I'm just looking at my notes I wrote earlier on this. Yeah, the reason why the new establishment would shout back to them, you're on our side, you're on our side, you just haven't got the power that you want. And then they shout back, well, that's what we want that, so you're not on our side. The reason why they would absurdly spin it is exactly the same reason as why the state superstructure does that now. It's because they want to preserve their power. If they shout back to them, oh yeah, we hear that, we've got power you haven't, we better get out of here so that none of us have too much power, then that would give the game away quite, they'd be saying it as clearly as I'm saying it. So they can't shout back, we hear what you're saying, you've got no power, we have. They can't shout back to them that. They have to shout back to them, no, you're deluded, you've got as much power to influence millions of people as we have. But they haven't really. If you look on Twitter, most people can't get beyond much past 20 people. Whereas the state claiming that they have as much power as them would mean they could reach probably 2 million people. But the state does lie, and that's like, well, that's quite a big lie, I think, being about 2 million out. But that's what they do. It might sound sarcastic, but it's not. I'm not trying to be sarcastic. I'm not trying to be sarcastic. It's literally how it is. They claim that we have as much power as they do. Literally. You know, I mean, like, it's like it's about as ridiculous as saying that you can generate as much heat as a star in the solar system, like our sun. It's as ridiculous as that. But that's Orwellian. I'm saying the state is Orwellian, so it shouldn't be a surprise to hear me say stuff that sounds sarcastic when I mean it's literally true. So yeah, there is a power and control imbalance. It is absurd to suggest otherwise. Yet they do say otherwise. That is the problem. There's a power and control. If we just get real here and say the problem is there's a massive inequality of control, without bringing in the absurdity of challenging that in some Orwellian way, saying black is white, then we can so the Orwellian part is a problem in addition to the actual real problem. They just can't admit it. They can't admit it. And they think we are the ones with the issues. I think that a lot of the people that get in the state superstructure think they have a divine right to be there, to have power and control. Because the reason I say this isn't just like some prejudice or something, not that at all. It's when you look at human history, it's always been like that. The ones that rule never took power voluntarily. Never in history. It takes, it's like pulling teeth to bring them down. So on the contrary to giving up power voluntarily, they try to hang on as if it's some kind of life or death situation. That is what makes me think that power thinks it has a divine right to be there. Because if power didn't think like that, then I wouldn't be able to say this thing that never has there been any power that has voluntarily given up power. You know, it'd be like countless examples. It'd be like the norm. So I claim it's part of the human condition. And remove them, like I say, it's like pulling teeth. Now, the masses, of course, see clearly because they haven't got the lure and they're not under their own spell of having elite power because they haven't got it. So they see clearly. If they take power, then they will become like that. In effect, power corrupts and they would lose all sense of common sense. No longer would they be down to earth, as people like to describe the masses. Because, you know, these people in power used to have no power and didn't used to be part of an institution that is corrupting. So it makes sense to say that it's power that corrupts. I think that Hitler saw potential in the UK system because it's so centralised. I think he quite liked it. Obviously he would grandiose it even more, but I think he quite liked it. that's not being said by me to gaslight anyone that sort of likes the state superstructure. It's an important distinction to make. I said Hitler is ripe. I mean, our system is ripe for Hitler. It doesn't mean to say that I think that people who work at Westminster are like Hitler. It means, that would be offensive if I was saying that. It'd be very, very offensive. But what it means is that the system is rotten. It doesn't mean the people there want to kill people. It means that the system is rotten. The state superstructure is rotten. It is grossly unequal. And Adolf Hitler would have been able to take advantage of it as much as he could take advantage of the German system, because it's centralised. Britain is one of the most centralised nations in modern Western countries, and he could take advantage of that. So that is the distinction. The system is rotten. The people in it are corrupted because they are part of that system. They are not corrupted because they are evil people like Hitler. So that's the distinction I make there. There's a trend towards people disliking remote over there, presiding over us, cliques. I can see that, and some people would say back to me, there's your opportunity. But my thinking on that is that the elites show us their ass over that. So yes, that is there, but the elites, state superstructure, that's exactly what they fight. They don't tell us they're fighting it. But it's a bit of a coincidence that this is a worldwide problem and no power in the world today is doing anything about it. So I don't buy into this thing that because there is a trend, because the elites know there's a trend, that they are going to do anything about it. I think that they know that. They know this. They know it a heck of a lot. I've even seen a UK document saying this. And that was years ago. So they haven't done it. They're not going to do anything about it. So I think that it's like saying, when people say this about the trends, I think it's a bit like saying all my other stuff I say is going to come up. It's as if they're saying all the stuff you're going about, Paul, is going to come off fine because there's a trend. I don't think this is true. I think the state superstructure sees it as a threat, and that's why I don't think it means there's a trend for decentralisation. Ergo, decentralisation shall happen. I mean, in France, there's a centrist politician, I forgot his name, I've got it noted down, I'm not going to bother getting it just to say his name. I don't have a clue who he is other than he's described as a centrist. And not left, not right, but he's somewhere in the middle. And he said exactly this, that there is, across the world, and including in France, this dislike of remote politicians that take decisions for people from far away. It's almost his exact quote. Now, translated into English. And he's right, but do you see any massive decentralisation in France? No, I just see the protest that he's claiming exists because there isn't this decentralisation. Now therefore, when the revolution or the mass protests do kick off, I'm claiming that the state superstructure has a massive responsibility for this having happened. So you can. I'm not again. I'm against a replacement from a revolution. A replacement because it's just to me it's just shuffling people about. It's not getting rid of the state superstructure. State superstructure is a problem. So the mad chaos, mad revolution, and whose fault is it? It's the ones who preside in the state superstructure now, because they're the ones who have, through their inactions over years and years and years and years, and their dogma and their propaganda, bring all this problem about. They bring down the collapse of Great Britain. Their perspective, because they put a label on this part of Earth, Great Britain, it's the collapse of it, yeah. Now it's their fault, their own fault, because they wouldn't talk like that. No. They wouldn't say we're anything. There's nothing to do with us. It would be that attitude. They say, who are these evil revolutionaries? Who are they? Why are they doing this when we've been so good and proper and decent? Abhorrent. as if somehow they're like totally irrelevant to anything to do with a power struggle. That's how they would come across, and that is not something I will empathise with. I will agree with them that violence is wrong. I will agree with them that wanting to be in a power structure, the superstructure, is very wrong. And I'd look at them and say, you hypocrites. But I would not agree with them that they are somehow absolutely nothing to do with it whatsoever. But as crazy as it sounds for some at one of the sides in a civil war to say they have nothing to do with it, look at history. That's what they always say. It's like Orwellian again. It's because power and control wants to have massive power and control and also be completely innocent from all power and control issues. You just have to look at our democratic politics. You can be in power for 20 years and any problem that comes up, not our fault, every time. So it's really that simple. The power and control is there. There is this massive power inequality. It's not true that someone who can only reach 20 people has as much power and control as those who can reach 2 million people. It's not true that if a revolution started that the existing power structure would have had nothing to do with it. But they would come across saying all this stuff. Ignore them. It's like Alice in Wonderland logic. Power and control system has TV news that can reach millions, has newspapers that can reach millions in print and online. It has TV cameras in the faces of people at the top of the state superstructure every day. They have vast power and control compared to anyone who's listening to this video, unless that anyone happens to be one of the people in the state superstructure very near to the top of it. It's there's as much of that power difference, which incidentally has billionaire owners of the news media. There's as much of a power difference there as there is between a homeless guy in terms of how much that homeless guy has in his bank account and a billionaire. It's as absurd as saying that they're equal economically. It is that obvious. So no, don't listen to the state superstructure when they claim otherwise, because these power inequalities in wealth are there. It's not a myth, and these power inequalities in how many people you can reach are there. It's not true that I can reach as many people as the Sun newspaper or Sky News. The inequalities I go on about are not a myth, they are real. They're the ones in Alice in Wonderland or Orwellian land. So therefore, when revolution does kick off, it will not be true that it had nothing to do with them. It has everything to do with them. It's got nothing. There's 100% to do with them would be the reason. And also the people who are fighting them are doing so because they recognise that, and them ones want what they've got. And so the fight would actually be on both sides. They'd both be fighting for that same power, while both claiming that they don't want any power. No, not about us. There's 100% what both sides would want, and it's why I'd be opposing both sides. Now, I've put a question to myself here which is very challenging. I put the question to myself: would you prefer a revolution to punish the existing state superstructure, even if you know that those revolutionaries doing the punishment would replace the existing state superstructure? My answer was yes. Then I would hope for a counter-revolution in order to punish the revolutionaries. I mean, obviously I would hope that the shock of it all brings people to their senses, but I just don't see, when I study this every day, I do not see the human brain working like that. I see it as a massive power trip, power grab, propaganda. But do you think it would work out well? One word answer, no. But then I put, why not? I put, everyone wants power and control. All else is bullshit. I'm an ultra-realist. That's how I see myself, an ultra-realist. And I think on those two words, ultra-realist, I think that is the end of the video. I just so wish that I could be more positive than ending on a negative note. But I can't. I mean, I have other theories in my head, but I don't buy them. I don't buy into them. They're too convenient. I've mentioned them before, I'm not going to mention them again, because I want to be honest and say that as an ultra-realist, I think the existing state superstructure is beyond help. They are deluded. They are absolutely insane. They're thinking, because they're so comfortable, that they cannot see what I'm saying, no matter how obvious it is, and no matter how crazy their claims are, that this is somehow not about power at all. and then also the fact that I admit that revolutionaries play exactly the same sort of propaganda, and even use the same propaganda machines that are in place at the moment. It makes me want to vomit that people on my side would end up like the existing lot. Absolutely want to vomit all over it. I see the existing state superstructure and people on my side as like and that's the ultra-realist in me. Sorry, I can't be more positive. I wish I could. I can show a gorgeous dog to compensate. Hello, Beanie Weenie. Can you see the camera? Yeah. Yeah, she's wondering what I'm doing now, so I'll stop. There we go.